Hello, all you wonderful first graders in New Jersey. It's Mrs. Banker. Time for our bookworms. Ever have one of those days where everything goes wrong? I just knocked over my whole glass of water before I started reading to you today. Sometimes those things happen, don't they? We just have to laugh about them. It went everywhere, though. And my feet are wet, too. So, anyway, today, back to our Eric Carle books, of course. And I'm going to tell you kind of a funny thing about my granddaughter. I have a little 10-month-old granddaughter who lives in Louisiana. And we have a song that we sing when we see the sun come out, or we're outside, or we're looking at the sun. So we sing a little song called Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please keep shining on me. Well, I started looking at Eric Carle books with her. And you know what he puts on his books? A lot. He loves the sun. So every time I'd turn the page, I'd see her kind of wiggle in her seat. Turns out she was dancing because whenever we see the sun outside, we sing that song and we dance a little bit. So we'll see how many times we'd have to dance because he has a lot of sons, I think. But that was kind of funny that she does that. And my son didn't understand why she was dancing every time he read a book that had a sun in it. So this is one of his called The Greedy Python. We kind of are doing reptile books today. I didn't think about that when I picked them, but they're both reptile books I'm going to read to you. Of course, a python is a snake, which is in the reptile family. Greedy. What does it mean to be greedy? We all know people who are greedy. We don't want to be greedy ourselves. But what do you think it means to be greedy? I think I hear you saying like selfish, like they only want something for themselves. And sometimes they learn a lesson because of their greediness. Let's see what happens to the greedy python. It's also a rhyming book. Eric Carle doesn't do a lot of books in rhyme, but the two reptile books are in rhyme, so that's kind of fun. And look at this picture. Talk about green, and he's kind of camouflaged in the tree, isn't he? Half hidden in the jungle green, the biggest snake that's ever been, wound back and forth and in between. You can barely see him in there. The giant snake was very strong and very, very, very long. He had a monstrous appetite. His stomach stretched from left to right. He quickly gobbled in one bite whatever creature came in sight. A mouse that scampered to and fro, a frog that jumped up from below, a bat that hung from his left toe, a fish that swam a bit too slow, a bird that flew a bit too low. The snake wanted them all. A porcupine still half asleep, a monkey who was in mid-leap. Would you want to swallow a porcupine? No, I don't think that would taste too good or feel very well in your stomach, would it? A leopard sitting in a tree, a buffalo who came to see. Hard to imagine that a python could swallow a buffalo. I've heard stories about the large animals that they can swallow, though. An elephant, complete with trunk, was swallowed in a single chunk. I'm far too big to eat, he cried. Oh, no, you're not, the snake replied. Mrs. White would not be happy about this one, being swallowed by a snake. At last the python's meal was done, and he lay resting in the sun. The animals inside his skin were making quite a dreadful din. That means they're making noise, and they're moving around and disturbing our python. There's Mr. Sun, have to dance, yes. And when they all began to kick, the snake began to feel quite sick. He coughed the whole lot up again, each one of them, and there were 10. Not anymore. Mr. Sun, Mr. Sun. He soon felt better, and what's more, was hungrier than just before. He hadn't learned a single thing. His greed was quite astonishing. He saw his own tail, long and round, long and curved, and he thought that lunch was being served. What do you think he's going to do? Oh, Da-da. He closed his jaws on his own rear, then swallowed hard and disappeared. Isn't that funny? That's a funny story. And I hope he learned a lesson. I hope he learned a lesson, that greedy old python. Swallowing his own tail. You can't tell the difference, I guess. Our second book, about another reptile, is called The Foolish Tortoise. Of course, you know a tortoise is a turtle. I believe it's just larger than a normal sized turtle. Love that green, it's so pretty. And this one also is in rhyme. And there's Mr. Song. Da-da-da-da-da, Mr. Golden Song. Okay. The Foolish Tortoise. And you know what foolish means. If you're foolish, you do something just plain silly, just not smart. And there he is. A tortoise tired of being slow, impatient to get up and go. Just think of a turtle. They really can't go any faster than they're given the skills to go, can they? They can't do much about it. It's hard to go faster carrying that house around. He took off his large and heavy shell and left it lying where it fell. Hooray, he cried, now I've been freed. I'll see the world at double speed. Think he'll be faster? Yeah, maybe not carrying that around should help a little bit. Though faster, he was not expressed, and his protection was far less. So when he heard a hornet's drone, the tortoise crept beneath a stone. He's lost his protector, the shell. A hungry bird came swooping past. He looked so fierce and flew so fast. The tortoise hid behind some trees. He felt quite weak behind his knees. I don't feel safe. There's too much risk. If only I could be more brisk. He headed for the riverbed. A fish swam up. The tortoise fled. It's a rather large fish. Along his way, our hero went and almost had an accident. A snake with open jaws slid near. The tortoise backed away in fear. The snake would enjoy that, I'm sure. Looks like our other snake. A hare, a hound, a horse raced by. So rapidly they seemed to fly. The tortoise gasped, sat goggle-eyed. I'll never be that quick, he sighed. Not quick as a hare. Hare is a rabbit, of course. And the hound dog and a horse. I think horses might be the fastest on that page, don't you think? I don't know. Maybe rabbits are faster. He wandered on. The sun rose high. I wish I had more shade, he cried. A sudden thunderstorm swept in and soaked the tortoise to the skin. If he was only under his what? Shell, I don't think the rain would bother him so much. The wind rose up and soon the breeze was bending branches in the trees. The tortoise shivered. Now I'm cold. I wish I hadn't been so bold. Meaning brave to get rid of his shell. He's learning a lesson, isn't he? I think I've lost the urge to roam. I think it's just time that I went home. Without my shell, I don't feel right. So when his shell came into sight, what do you think he's going to do? He climbed back in and said, good night. He's learned a great lesson, hasn't he? You can't always think about something that you have that you think would you be better off without. Usually it's something that you need, that you were given that for a reason, for his protection. Other animals have protective things on them. That's how they defend themselves. I would like you in your blue journal that Mrs. White told me about to just try to draw a picture or write the word about an animal who you think has something they would like to give up. Like the turtle wanted to give up his shell so he could be faster. Can you think of an animal that might have something on them that they wish they could get rid of too? Something they don't like about themselves or complain about? Just see if you can think of one. I'd love to see what you think of another animal. I'm thinking of one that has sharp quills on it. Myself. Anyway, take care. I'll see you again sometime soon. Take care and be safe. Bye.